Now we're cooking with Crisco, people. We're taking this travel show idea to the big time. An international trip to Oslo, Norway. It was December, and that, of course, is the dead of winter. Let me tell you something else about Oslo. It is very north, which means daytime is so small. That's a core memory for me. Ooh, I recall this very distinctly because it would be like a little after 9, closer to 10 a.m. when the sun would rise, and it never reached full peak sky. It just came up a little bit. And then 2:30, no lie, birds would start chirping, getting ready for dusk. It started to become dusk at 2:30 and sun would set 3:30. Very short window. So I got this trip. I was invited by Norway Tourism to be a guest as they were hosting a press trip around the Nobel Peace Prize event. Like, what? I couldn't even believe it. I was just getting started. This is one of those opportunities that make creators addicted to what is sometimes the struggle of working for yourself, especially in this industry, because like in any other situation, how could I even be invited to this celebrity style, like roll out the red carpet, flights hosted, ground transportation hosted, staying at a very nice hotel, meals hosted, experiences laid out for you. I'm not a celebrity, I'm not rich, and this was a packed press trip itinerary. But while I was there, I set up conversations with Black and Latino expats who were living there because that's a topic that I started covering because I was super curious about it. And this was one of the first opportunities I got to talk to real people. Most of them were young people who were bold enough to decide to expatriate from the US. What was their story about? Before we get into that, let's talk about what a press trip is and why brands and destinations spend thousands to host media. Okay, so a press trip or a fam trip is a hosted or sponsored journey or experience where travel writers, journalists, and content creators are invited by tourism boards, PR firms, or brands to experience a destination or a product firsthand. So the goal, it's a marketing tool. It's to generate media coverage or content with hosts covering travel, lodging, meals, and activities. It's all in their marketing budget. It's marketing for them. Now, these trips are everything you think they are. They're often glamorous, super fun, but they're whirlwind experiences. And like I said, it gives you access to many things that many don't get access to. And at this point in my career, I've been to probably more than 100. And that's including the press trips and experiences I had when I was working for traditional news and media. Let's be clear of what they are not. They are not vacations. And this is where many people are disillusioned, because press trips, you will have a fully stacked itinerary from the moment you land until you leave, and there is often little downtime. You are required to attend all the events they set up, all the experiences. The host team have coordinated it just for you, and a lot of work goes into marketing teams building out these press trips. So it is your obligation to attend everything they prepared for you. But also, let's be clear, there's a lot of work to participate in one as press or media or a content creator. But additionally for us on the back end of the trip, you have deliverables. Nobody ushered in these dream experiences for you just because you're cute, and you are cute, but that's not why they did it. This is an exchange. It's a marketing exchange. So you need to deliver press attention, which is the value exchange for them. And who you are delivering to does matter. This is how you get access to the press trips. If you just have a small blog or a small social media following, you may not get invites because of the investment. They have to calculate the ROI, and the investment is sometimes thousands of dollars for these marketing teams. But that could be worth it, because if it's a big time outlet or a TV network or you're a big blogger, then that's a good ROI for them. You know, bigger stats, bigger reach, bigger opportunities. You get it. Okay, so for this trip in Oslo, let's look at the itinerary. I pulled it up here. Arriving in Oslo, and they actually did give us a break. And it's always great when the PRs understand that too. They're also probably likely arriving. So it's usually like allowing you to adjust to the time difference, get settled into your hotel, get something to eat. Usually there is a group dinner that first night. And yes, there is a dinner. And then we got our VIP passes. So then everything gets started bright and early next day, not too early, 10 a.m., which is great. But you can see just scrolling through, I'm not going to go line by line on what we did, because we'll see what I thought was worthy to point out during the episodes that we rewatch. So, but I do want to point out that we got started on December 10th at 10 a.m. It was back-to-back events all the way until 6:30 p.m. And then we had an hour before we left to go to a special event, and then dinner. And that is a long day's work of just back to back, being engaged, trying to capture content, taking in the information, trying to enjoy a bit of it at the same time. And likely it said the itinerary said arrive back to or depart back to the hotel at 6:30. Probably had less than an hour. And sometimes, a lot of times, that little, when they do like give you a 1 hour break, you don't even have the break. Sometimes, likely, all those events that were back to back accumulated earlier in that day, we probably would have been running late. When you're with a group of people, you're likely always running late. All right, so now that I have an itinerary going in, I would prepare for things on that itinerary, perhaps looking up some of the places on the itinerary, but mostly that is not my behavior. I likely don't do that. I like for these things to be revealed to me without expectations on what I could see. I do know the weather, so pack accordingly. And for this trip, like I said, I saw the whole schedule, and so I saw where I did have breaks, and this is where I knew I could get some outside interviews for that other story I wanted to tell. And those are those Black American expats who had expatriated to Norway. And I wanted to know why. Let's rewatch the Oslo series of Beyond the Usual.
I'm going to show you the proper way to do a toast or cheers, and the way that you say it in Norwegian is skål.
Norwegians are outdoorsy kind of folks. They say that there's never bad weather, just bad clothing.
That is something that I learned on the trip, because I would see the Norwegians were putting their babies outside. This is something I think the Nordic cultures all do. We've seen stories about this over the years, but that was the first time I ever saw that. And that is the saying. They say, there's never bad weather, it's bad clothing. When you're that far north, when it's cold a lot, you have to live like that. Let's review that cold open. It was okay. I did like that I held my shots better. And yeah, I think it would have been a good travel vlog.
Restaurants with outdoor patios don't shut down. Just put a blanket over your shoulders. Outdoor markets remain open and celebrations continue to happen in the streets. With just 48 hours in Oslo, I couldn't make it up to the Holmenkollen ski jump, but I did get to see a whole bunch of other things. On a walk around the block, I happened upon this glorious street.
Just like the people, the little Christmas lights.
It's called Karl Johans Gate. It's actually the main street in Oslo, and it's full of life. There's shops, street performers. It reminds me of the 3rd Street Promenade in Santa Monica, California. And at the end of the street, you see a very nice surprise, a Ferris wheel. But keep on going, because you've just discovered Vinterland.
Not just Winterland, Vinterland.
A seasonal market in downtown Oslo that, once inside, is a whole new world.
Lucky for us, Christmas market.
There's a popular ice rink, booths with Scandinavian gifts, and even a talking moose. Does this dreadful painting look familiar? Famous Norwegian artist Edvard Munch created this painting that has transcended to pop culture. So it's worth a trip to the Munch Museum or the National Gallery to check out the famous painting on display. Yup, there are 2 of them. Well, actually 4, but 3 of them remain in Oslo. The first painting was accepted into the museum while Munch was still alive in 1893, which made the artist famous while he was still alive. He wanted to keep another one for himself, so he made another, and another, and another. Lunchtime! Now, American palates will struggle with Norwegian food. Red fish, rotting fish, pickled fish, and that's just the fish. Wait until I tell you about the moose.
This is moose.
And reindeer. I tried reindeer too. But for the most variety, visit Mathallen, which literally means food hall. Take a walk through the streets of Grünerløkka, a cool little neighborhood on the east side of the river. There's little cafes, restaurants, vintage and thrift shops, and bars. It's basically where all the cool kids play.
So today we had another little short day. Sunrise was 9:06, sunset 3:12. So there goes the sun.
But before the sun sets, you should make sure you get to the Opera House. It's one of the coolest things that I did while in Oslo. It was architecturally built to look like sheets of ice.
So one of the things that you should do is walk to the very top of the Opera House.
Open to the public, you can walk up there. So, of course, I did that.
It's another picturesque selfie spot. Everybody seems to be doing it here.
Just be careful not to fall, like I did.
Okay, so the video I thought was decent. It wasn't cinematic or anything, but we held the shots and they were nice clean shots. The storytelling, you know, that was the way I told stories 10 years ago. I don't tell stories the same way, but I'm not mad at it. I think it was informative. You got information, you got to look around. But since we just learned about press trips, can you see what it was like to capture content on a clearly curated itinerary? The museum visit, the food hall, the opera house, right? Okay, so now you can start to see that. And especially if there are other creators that you watch, that when they say they go on press experiences, when they disclose that to you, when you're watching their videos, the experiences that they're presenting to you isn't anything that they came up with themselves, most likely. Sometimes you can have individual press visits where they ask you what you want to do, or if you're traveling, you can reach out to like smaller like tour operators and do it that way. But when it's like a destination hosted one, usually they have a determined itinerary and you're following along and you're capturing content along the way. So now you're more keen to understanding how this is all programmed. Let's move on to the next episode.
Gløgg. This is traditional Norwegian drink. Gløgg wine, so without the alcohol, and they it's like a cozy drink that they drink for the holidays with some gingerbread cookies.
It's only just been a few hours here in Oslo, Norway, and I'm already having fantasies about moving here permanently. And that should sound crazy to you if you know anything about me, because you know that I hate snow. I can't stand it. I'm not built for it. And I've been told that it has snowed every month of the year here on record at least one time. That's even June and July.
Setesdal was a quite isolated area, so they had kind of lived the old-fashioned way.
All of us were quite surprised to take the outdoor museum tour. What's the temperature you think? I cannot even pull it out. In Fahrenheit, I would say it's around 0, don't you think? Yeah.
Like below comfortable.
It's the coldest day that we've had here, but maybe 10 degrees. I think people were half listening and half like shivering.
Yeah.
I don't think I established what this place is and what this tour is.
We started in the medieval times. Got to see medieval houses all the way up to the 1800s, from western Norway to eastern Norway. We started quite early in the morning. There's frost on the ground, and I don't think most of us were prepared for an outdoor tour. Christmas market, and it's one of the things that all Norwegians come. It's the biggest Christmas event in Oslo and probably in Norway altogether.
I think this is a bit different market than we went to at the night market, the Vinterland. I do love this music I chose.
I've already established Norwegians are not afraid of the cold, so nothing's going to keep them inside from the Christmas market.
invited inside City Hall. And two things are for sure. Not a single wall wasn't painted. And they seem to be obsessed with nude paintings. If you're in town during the Nobel Peace ceremony, which is December 10th every single year, then stop by the Nobel Peace Center.
I think this is the fast lane. You know, just to walk up the red carpet, and I guess that was the first part of our VIP experience.
Get it, girls. I probably said that same thing. I remember this. It was very enjoyable.
Did you know that all the Nobel Prizes are in Stockholm, Sweden? Except for the Peace Prize, which is here in Oslo. So it's a really, really big deal.
Okay, so I didn't point out. So where those kids were playing in the corner, let's pull up that picture right here. That's where I think one of the princesses of the royal family was there. They pointed it out, they greeted them. And that's when I had another culture shock that, you know, growing up a super fan of Disney, princesses, of course, wear really like princess gowns, right? Like, of course. You're royalty. No, they just wore like really nice suits and they looked super modern.
So we have some Tunisians in town to see the peace winners. This is pretty cool.
Oh, I want to do that again. It was so good.
You may not get to go to the actual ceremony, but you can buy a ticket to the Peace concert for about $150.
Very ironic for me to be here tonight because in high school I was voted the least likely ever to be contacted by the Nobel Committee. So this is really exciting.
I can feel the warning signs.
That's where I discovered Norwegian singer Aurora. She literally sent chills down my spine. A rising star, Katy Perry called her the best singer in the world.
She's pretty good. Okay, so I need to tell you about that concert. Okay, so that journalist I was with, her name is Jacqueline Kehoe, and of course you can tell because she's in a lot of these clips that we bonded immediately on this trip. What was really special is that she was just as tall as me, and if you don't know, I am pretty tall. I'm 6 feet. And another culture shock that I had in seeing in real time was all those Nordic men are tall. They're the descendants of Vikings. So picture this, imagine, because my mouth was on the floor. Before this concert, we were swifted into this holding area, like this little reception, and we didn't have much time because I think we were running late before they swift us off into our seats at the concert, where those clips that you can see. But before that, we're at this reception, we're just taking it all in, and then Jacqueline and I really just have this moment where we lock eyes and we're like, what's happening? Because literally men are coming in one after another, taller than me, each one. And as they come in, there's just the doors opening and they're just getting taller and taller. My God, this is when I realized these are the descendants of Vikings. So remember earlier in this episode, I said, I think I want to move here. This is the reason why. I had never seen that. But also the other caveat to consider is that these men weren't just tall, and they also came in every flavor. They had nerdy ones, they had ones with rugged beards, they had clean cut ones, but they all were in European cut suits. Imagine. I remember Jacqueline tapped me on the shoulder. She was like, let's go to the restroom. We literally were overwhelmed. Never in our life had we been exposed to so many men who were just taller than us. And we both said, I think I can move here. The reason is that I still haven't circled back to that is because it's just so cold there. The concert was fun. This was so special.
So we're lighting our torches. We're gonna walk to honor this year's honorees. And we're gonna meet them at the top with our torches. Finally. Bye.
This is so special.
You can also participate in the torch lighting ceremony as part of the Peace Prize events. With the finale in front of the famous Grand Hotel, where you see the laureates greet their fans and supporters.
Okay, so back to the one-man band situation. Still mostly timid with asking people on the trip to help. I do remember having a tripod. I would try to shoot myself, but it was run and gun literally, and in a city is different things to consider than just doing that like on a Caribbean island when it's more remote, because you could set up your tripod and then perhaps, you know, catch yourself walking, but you can't really do that in a city without like the risk of somebody swooping by and taking your things. And also because the itinerary was really jam-packed, so it was just, you know, rapid fire capturing. But the other thing, I felt I saw some holes in the storytelling because I don't think I established what that first place in one of the episodes was. And then also I didn't explain why the Tunisians won the Peace Prize. So it was actually the Tunisians National Dialogue Quartet, and they won because they prevented the country from collapsing into a civil war. So it was really special, but you could just tell that even if I didn't know what was going on in the ground, the emotion of the people coming together was so special to be amongst them on that. That was truly a special trip. And that was so early on in my travel reporting career. I remember feeling special. Feeling special at the time. It was a whirlwind, of course, but also feeling overwhelmed because how do I capture it all by myself? And I just didn't have the money to pay somebody to come with me on these trips at the time. That changes later. We're not there yet. But you can see the access that we had, being ushered in front of crowds, getting to do some of the most special things in this story. I did share with you the things that you can get access to if you brought yourself there to do it. But then oftentimes on press trips, they give you access to things that you'd never get to do on your own. It's not even an option for the public to do. And this is when you're careful. And as a journalist, I think this is where you need to be careful and explaining to people the reality of what you're showing them and what their call to action is. Are you showing them something that they can actually do, or are you showing them something that you got access to? They're following you because you get access to some of these cool things and they just want to look at it, which both things have value and both things we enjoy watching. Let's move on to the next episode.
Remember when I said that I may want to move to Norway?
It's only just been a few hours here in Oslo, Norway, and I'm already having fantasies about moving here permanently.
Exactly what was in my mind again.
Well, guys, I found some Americans who did.
Getting into the culture part of it.
Impression of Oslo: innovation, energy, vibe. Ooh, it's really green, advanced, untainted, unpretentious, and diverse. That's really one of the things that stood out most to me. There seems to be a very international and diverse community. People from all over the world.
Including African Americans.
Chris Rock says it best. It's like the America is like that uncle who molested you but paid for college. Yeah.
It's a complicated relationship between Black Americans in our home country, which historically and even today does not treat us so well. While in Oslo, I found a community of expatriates of color living there in some sort of racism-free utopia.
But here in Norway,
it's like I'm American first and then black second.
Anthony Durham was born in Philly, raised in Maryland, studied abroad in Belgium, where he met his wife.
People are just generally very welcoming here. It's a large like mixing pot. Like I actually get my hair cut. The barbershop's owned by this Nigerian guy and a Somalian guy. And they're like super cool. And they actually every time I come in, they're like, "Hey, Obama's here."
By the way, I've learned that in general, President Obama gets lots of love internationally. But back to our expat Anthony.
And Norwegians are like they're like their Viking ancestors. They go to like
everywhere,
all over the place,
so
to like conquer and bring the people back home. So there's a lot of
and they
things
bring
here.
them back.
Yeah.
That's what I've. They bring them back. That's what I've noticed.
Like souvenirs.
There's something.
Okay, so I already know that what I said, the phrase "some racism-free utopia" was super controversial. And in fact, I wrote an article for The Root. I'll put it up here and I'll link it in the notes, where I did the written version of some of these interviews that I did with these expats. And yeah, that was their point of view. They shared their own experience. They were being honest, and it was selling me, right? And their experience was that they were having a grand old time. They weren't experiencing the microaggressions and often the macroaggressions of growing up in the US in this place where there were a large percentage of the population is white and a homogenous nation.
To that, because I also met Janine Johnson, who is from Chicago but now lives in Norway because of a boy.
So my husband is Norwegian, and we actually met in Iowa State University in the U.S.
How are you accepted in the family? Is
he
white Norwegian?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
They love me. I mean,
was it easy or were you nervous? Was it like, guess who's coming to dinner? Like, how did you?
Well, I think my husband prepared them, but it's funny because they didn't know a lot of black people in their lives, but they were just completely open to it. Like, her biggest concern was, oh, how do they treat you as an interracial couple in America?
In my travels, I found that it's no secret to the rest of the world that America has a race problem. But as Anthony explains, it's simply because the history between the two countries are just different.
It's like up until like the 70s, this was a largely homogenous society, and even still now. I mean, if you go outside Oslo, it's still very much ethnic Norwegians. I think it's like 96% of the population is ethnic Norwegians.
So have you had any experience, because you're from Chicago, with racism here?
Here, no, I really haven't, and because everyone just sees me as American, which actually American here and being a black American is more unique because the other people that look like me, they're really from Africa, they're really from the motherland, or some other countries. So and I think also it goes back to Norway's long good relationship with America.
So many times people will talk about like problems with like Africans or blacks, and then they'll say, but oh, not you, Anthony, you're American. And it's like, so it's like I'm American before black, so it's really weird in that regard.
So it's a good look for black Americans, but for Africans from Africa in general, it's still not that great.
A lot of times in public, I'll make a point of speaking in English so people know.
So they know, yeah. You look less cold than me.
I lived in Berlin.
You lived in Berlin.
Alyssa Rivera is a Latina American from Albuquerque, New Mexico.
Well, in Oslo, I've never had any problem at all. It's funny. It's like, it's not an issue. People are curious about it, so they'll ask you, but they're more interested than, discriminating.
So when we would walk around in town, I would get some looks like, oh, she's different, but nothing threatening.
Next time on Beyond the Usual, we continue our conversation with our expats of color living in Norway and learn that all that glitters may not be gold.
In my life, I've had 3 run-ins with police officers where I've had guns drawn on me. Only one of those was America. The other 2 were Europe.
Right, so let's move on to our other episode with these expats.
Eat all the blankets.
Yeah.
The cold is not going to keep Norwegians from going outside.
Actually, there's another Norwegian saying, there's no bad weather, just bad clothing.
I believe that.
Everyone loves the outdoors. It doesn't matter if it's cold, rainy, snowy, well below 0. They're just like, oh yeah, you just put on the right clothes and we go out and we're gonna have a lovely day.
Just came from the Christmas market and they just put the babies in the ski suits.
Babies, they take naps outside in their strollers.
Living MLK Stream in Oslo.
Oslo, Norway is the host to the Nobel Peace Prize. So the international city is not only used to diversity, but it's really integrated with cultures from all over the world.
I got to see some of the school children and everybody's from everywhere. The kids are from everywhere. There's brown kids, there's Asian kids.
Anthony Durham is an American expatriate from Maryland who now lives in Oslo with his Norwegian wife.
But the store person actually walked around them and to me, and I was like, what? It's because they were like Eastern European. And they heard me speaking on the phones and knew I was American. Like, oh, he's gonna buy something, he's American.
Janine Johnson is from Chicago and moved to Norway to be with her Norwegian husband.
And actually, what's funny too is they assume I speak fluent Norwegian. Like if I don't say anything first and they start speaking to me, they just speak their language, and there's no judgment of looking at me like, oh, she probably doesn't speak it. They're just like, oh no, she's probably Norwegian. When people meet me and they hear my accent, they're just like, oh, you're American. Like I don't have to put anything in front of that or explain why do I look the way I look, and I'm American, you know, African American, always.
Yeah.
In the U.S.
In the U.S. Yeah.
I agree. It's been more memorable to me when in my travels I'm referred to as simply the American girl. But more than assimilation, Oslo is offering Americans an almost immediate lifestyle upgrade.
A lot of companies, people come in at 8 a.m. and they leave at 3.
Alyssa Rivera is from Albuquerque, New Mexico, and has been living abroad since college.
You know, you leave very early, and there's a big focus on life-work balance, and also you get a lot of holidays, so you get about 5 to 6 weeks of vacation time that you must take.
It's fairly easy to become a resident here. All you have to do is move.
One of the initial benefits is me just being a resident here. I'm already in the healthcare system without ever having a job here. If I need to go to the doctor, I just pay a small copay, and I've never paid for any kind of insurance or anything here.
And if you have a job, it's even better.
So you work and have a job, and then you get pregnant, you get a full year.
1 year.
A full year.
And then there's a paternity.
Yes, paternity as well.
That's paid maternity for a year. Paternity, it's required that a father takes at least 12 weeks by law.
I could become a citizen if I wanted to, but they have a unique law where you're only allowed to be a citizen of one country.
Okay, so
I would have to give up my U.S. to become a Norwegian citizen, and I'm just like, I can't do that.
Never.
Okay.
That's a definite, man. That's, you know, there's nothing like going through an airport and sliding that blue passport, and then like, you know, that line, that conversation's a lot shorter. I've definitely like been doing Amsterdam where there's been like a flight from like Air France from like Nigeria or Togo landing, and like they're getting like a 2-minute discussion.
Yeah.
And then have that blue passport, it's like, whoop, go right through.
Anthony just had a son. Though his wife is white, his son is, well, black. So I asked him, now with what he's experienced living in Norway, would he ever consider moving back to the United States?
I mean, before when it was just hypothetical, you're always like, it'll be okay. I grew up. I survived. It's okay. But I mean, I wouldn't definitely be lying if I didn't say it didn't cross my mind. However, it's anywhere. It could be unsafe. In my life, I've had 3 run-ins with police officers where I've had guns drawn on me. Only one of those is America. The other 2 are Europe.
The biggest culture shock for our expats? The food. Hands down, Norwegian cuisine doesn't seem to suit the American palate.
It's tough finding a good spot. There's a lot of, you know, some nights I definitely would kill for Taco Bell at 2 in the morning. I'm leaving a party or a bar. I'm like, man, I wish there was a Taco Bell here.
One of the things that you can't miss out on here is the strange food.
Well, I've had moose salami and reindeer salami.
Yeah, you can get reindeer in the grocery store. Around Christmas, they have what's called smalahove, which is a sheep's head, and so it's
The bone and everything.
yeah. So you get a head on your plate.
So was that the strangest thing, the sheep's head?
I'd say the sheep's head or the rotten fish. They also have something called lutefisk,
And it's rotten.
and it's rotten. Yeah.
Oh, Norwegians, how we love you.
Okay, what did you think of the Norwegian episodes? Definitely for me, the expat episodes, top tier and best viewer value. I think I answered all those questions. I loved how I was able to put that together. Even back then, I think I did a really good job. There are some, again, I already addressed it, the antiquated thoughts of saying it was sort of a utopia, but that was the takeaway of the accumulative interviews, and personally made me consider, do I want to move there? And then the first parts of the episodes, I think, was just a personal kind of like jaw-dropping experience of like, girl, look at your life. Look what you were able to create for yourself. Draw into your world. Manifest, as the people like to say. Woo! This is where I think I start to understand where the sweet spot for me is, and it is definitely talking to people and leaning into their stories and sharing with them, just like the back and forth, not just doing like a straight stoic interview, but just like engaging with people. So that racism-free utopia, let's talk about it a little bit. This was recorded in 2015, before that racial reckoning of 2020. Have things changed here? Well, I think we're now in 2026, right? So past the racial reckoning, we are in another kind of hard spot, and the data is showing that people are expatriating, not just Black Americans, not just Americans of color, but Americans are trying to see where they could live, because history is sort of repeating itself right now. Let's check what is still open. Okay, so the Munich Museum, it actually moved to a new building in 2021, but you can go see those Scream photos there. The Opera House is still there. And of course you can walk to the rooftop. It is very slippery, so make sure that you have some shoes with a bit of grip. Christmas markets. If you haven't been to Christmas markets in Europe, which are seasonal, put that on your travel wish list. And that outdoor museum, let me see if I could try to say it. Norsk Folkemuseum. Anyways, yes, you can still experience that too. There you have it. That's Oslo. But friends, not every episode was an international press trip. In fact, I had to keep finding content for the show I was building, so I started to experiment with trying to film events in my own backyard, like a slip inside in the city. What about a TMZ bus tour? And then I play tennis, and I often go to professional tennis tournaments. And if I get a media pass to professional tennis tournaments, can I film there too? Yes, I did. And I was chasing down players. We'll see how that goes. I'll see you in the next video.